Welcome to On the Chain with Jeff and Chip.
Welcome to the Roundtable. Today we have two special guests. We have Tom Kuster. He is from the XRP Community Fund. He's coming into us today from Holland, better known as the Netherlands. And we have, for the first time ever, Sincerely George, coming to us straight from a secured location, probably in Texas somewhere. Welcome to the Roundtable.
Thank you.
Hi.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, everybody. And then, of course, I would like to do a special shout out to Jeff, who is the co-host, who anchors this with me and makes all the magic happen. Take it away, Jeff.
All the magic. So,
magic.
Yeah, it's awesome to have both of you on. Welcome to the Roundtable. I want to kick this off right away, and let's start talking about this XRP Community Fund, because I think it's really important. And when we look at other potential communities, I don't know if anything like this exists. It's support from the community to help support amazing projects. Tom, why don't you tell us a little bit about why you wanted to pull this fund together, the significance of it. And then I want to hear from Sincerely George, because she was working with you on one project as well. So let's start with you. We'll go over to Sincerely George and back over to Chip.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, most of all. It's started in 2019 when a couple of guys in the community found a technical problem, which was a potential security issue, and they helped solve it and made a lot of exchanges aware of the problem. And when this was found out, they gave us like a small token of appreciation in the form of XRP, and instead of keeping it for themselves, because I wasn't one of the guys who was working on the security issue, they decided to put it into like an account for interesting and useful projects to help the community grow and get not only the community but also the ledger and anything around which is useful to get the people interested and to make it into a healthier ecosystem. And at first it was just like an account, and then we said, well, maybe we should make it more official and get things arranged and make it more transparent. And so that's why we came up with the XRP Community Fund Foundation. And one of the first people who was really supportive of us was George, who's also here today. So that's nice.
That's awesome. So real quick, let me ask you, are you allowed to say which exchange it was?
No, multiple exchanges.
Multiple exchanges, nice.
Going for the info. Yeah, awesome.
That's right. Yeah, but that's a great story though, because here, you see a lot of people in this space. If someone says hey, that's great, you did something, here's some money, or a handout, they're gonna take that handout and run. And there's a lot that will come to you and say, hey, if you're going to do X, I want to pay you to do it. And it's nice. It's nice to take a different approach, and say, hey, we want to support the community at large and come up with something that's going to be impactful and actually build on it, versus taking that very narrow thought and just running away. I like that a lot.
True.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
It's also inspiring. And what is really nice is this is something which has been going on for many years already. I myself have been organizing meetups since 2014.
Oh, wow.
And I've been in the community since 2013. And I've seen people come and go. Some people are here just for the money, which is totally okay by me. But I can really see like a change in the way we use and interact with payments and with money and with insurance and stuff like that. So I believe that it is useful to put in energy to help the whole community. And there are more people who do that, and I really applaud them. And it's really nice to see and to speak with those people. You get a lot of energy and a lot of things happening, so that's awesome.
That's great. That's great. And I want to come back to, you were mentioning you get into the community or back in 2013 and 14. Let's come back to that afterwards, because that's going to be an interesting story to hear about. But I want to bring Sincerely George into this conversation, because we haven't heard from her in I don't know, like a year, it seems like, but
Ages.
but ages. It's been ages.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been like 10 years in crypto time. But so Sincerely George, what was it like working with the XRP Community Fund and Tom, and tell us a little bit about that, how your initiative.
Yeah, well, it was really cool. I think the biggest thing was really getting an opportunity to work with the community and get a better understanding and share the information about what the XRP Community Fund is all about. Part of the reason I really latched on to what the XRP Community Fund is doing is because it's really about providing the additional opportunities for us to connect with developers to solve real problems that exist within the XRP ecosystem that relate to customer and small business scenarios, right? Like Tom, I think you guys are more focused on scenarios that are going to help people engage. I heard you talk about that earlier and connect with XRP. And so I really like the stuff that some of the other people that are involved have done, so far in the ecosystem, like with Svind, in just creating the XRP tip bot, in, keeping it up to date, in running a validator. And there's other people, like you mentioned as well, Tom, that are doing this, and they're doing it ad hoc. The XRP Community Fund was the first foundation or verifiable community development group within the XRP community, right? Like you have Bitcoin Core, you've got the Ethereum network, community network.
Foundation,
7 a.m. Oh. But, you've got these different organizations around other tokens because they did an ICO or because they have come together post fork. And so the XRP Community Fund is that for XRP. And so I really commend that. We need that. We need to continue to invest in consumer flows because we have partners in the XRP ecosystem, AKA Ripple and R3 and other big organizations that are leveraging the XRP community, XRP ledger, but they aren't necessarily thinking about the flows that are free on purpose. They have their use cases that they have to serve. And, as a consumer, as an individual that wants to use the XRP ledger and wants it to remain decentralized and able to interact with it without a third-party intermediary, it's important to have groups that are continuing to focus on the needs of the consumer and the small business at the table when votes are being done for validators, right? And developers would be those people. Additionally, you also have to have them aware when we need new enhancements to enable, who's going to vote on the wallet deposit going down. Those would be our developers. So they would know that was coming up for vote unless somebody told the news, right? So I think it's important to have organizations like the XRP Community Fund. I think the XRP Community Fund is the nonprofit within our community where we can do those donations. And one specific example of exactly what I'm talking about, I don't know if you guys remember when somebody put forward a PR saying, hey, let's attach pictures to the XRP ledger. Right? Do you remember that? And do you know who told us about that, who alerted everybody that was a problem? It was Svind, right? He was the one that was like, this sounds like a really bad idea. And, that from that it grew out. And so that's developers interacting with the XRP ledger, with the validators to solve problems. I didn't know about it. And I bet you guys didn't either before he brought it up. So
no, and I think the first time I saw it was in a tweet, really, that was the very first time. And it's like, what? It sounded preposterous. Like, that's not what it's designed for, right? Sincerely, George, I wanted to ask you another question. So I was really really honored to participate in the XRP Community Awards, right, that you put together. So I want to talk about, kind of switch up a little bit, talk about what that was like to put together, because the first thing I thought of was, this woman is crazy. This is such an undertaking that you jumped out there and reached out to so many different people, and you reached out to me, and the coordination that went on. It was very impressive what you were able to pull up. But talk a little bit about your experience, before the conception of it. And I know there were a lot of other people involved helping you out. I know there was a whole group of people that you were tasking with them. But could you just share with the community, from your perspective, what that was like?
It was an inspired idea. When I heard about the XRP Community Fund, I said, that's where I want to put my donations. That's what the cause I want to really contribute to in our community. Because prior to that, it was Bob and a tutu, right? Like, we were able to raise a lot of XRP for the XRP Tree Project. But when I found out about the foundation, that Tom has helped set up, that really tweaked me. And I bought a Crypto Toeman poster. And at the same time, it was very close when the two were announced, I bought a second one to do a fundraiser for the XRP Community Fund. So as I started working with Vitsund and Tom to better understand what the parameters were that I could work within, it was like, how do I have to do this? It has to be an event. So won't go into I've mentioned that a lot, but yeah, it was really, it was a lot of work. It was way more than I thought. But I know now. So, and there were
you have learned.
So it was really cool. It was really awesome. And you did great, Chip. I thought the whole thing was it
was fun.
Off. Wow.
It was inspiring. Yeah.
And maybe next time, instead of 9.5 hours long, we can trim it down to maybe 3. It was awesome. I had it on my big screen TV, because I was like, this is 90% of the videos I watch are on this silly thing, right? Which is weird. Yeah. But I was broadcasting, I was having a drink and I'm watching it. And it was like an event, it was something to just watch. And, you overcame what I was impressed with. There was a couple little tech issues, but you just overcame it. You just glide right through that. So that was really cool that you put that together. And that's one of the reasons we're happy to have you here today to kind of talk about that. I mean, it's very rare that somebody takes the initiative to do something so big in this conception and then enroll all these people. When I say enroll, to get them in, who wants to come? And I remember early you said, I have an idea. I wasn't sure what you were talking about. I was like, I have an idea about doing something. Who's in? And people are like, I'm in. They didn't even know what am I volunteering for? But I know it took a team of people behind you as well. And we can't shout them all out here, but they knew who they are and they know what they contributed. And it's really cool. And I want to flip it back, Jeff. So going back to this, talking about this ecosystem. The XRP ecosystem and all these exciting companies. I know that sincerely George had mentioned, R3 and some people. What do you see as far as what could potentially, what's on the horizon for 2020 when we look at the growth and the support, especially with the XRP community? What are some of the things you're seeing?
You throwing that question over to me?
Sorry, I meant to say Tom. Sorry, and I realized when I was through that I was like, I said Jeff because I'm looking at you and the screen, but what I really meant to say was Tom Kuster. Please answer that question. What do you see on the horizon for 2020?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things on the horizon. You have on the one side you have Ripple, of course, who are going full speed on their products and developing for banks and financial institutions. And on the other hand, you have people you have the guys at Xspring who are also trying to support developers and make it easier for developers to develop onto and with or against the Ripple, the XRP ledger, which I think it's really interesting to see how that will develop. And then you have people in the community themselves who are also developing and coming up with products. And wow, that's like a huge range of things that are being developed from security to consumer using products to like proof of work stuff, proof of concept stuff, like what Allo Network is doing with its XR plug concept, which is like paying for like someone for a drink over the ledger, and then the drink is poured while you're looking at it. We had some fun with that
video.
yesterday.
That was
yeah,
that was crazy. I was trying to figure that out. I'm like, oh, look at that. They're pouring beers into that glass and people are funding it.
Yes, it was. And the problem is, so note for next time, we had some nice and interesting conclusions out of that. The number of tips we got was like enough for like we said one XRP is one beer, and we had more than 1,000 tips. So it was like poisonous.
It's a lot of beer.
Most important though on that, what kind of beer were you guys pouring, and where was it being poured from?
Yes, well, that's from a machine.
Okay.
And it's still in the works for both Alloy and for Wietse. We have been they have been working on it, and I've said, oh wow, we need to have that and look at it and work with it. So it was Hertog Jan beer, which is Duke Gen or Duke. Yeah, it is nice beer.
Good.
Gotcha, man. Yeah. Well, the beer. Next time we're gonna do it with whiskey. We're gonna have the whiskey.
Whoa.
But I think it'd be 5 XRP though. I think 5 XRP
definitely
for whiskey.
Yes,
you know, and
a Cuba Libre.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
We just, I think we're gonna have to figure that out.
What an interesting concept, though. I like that. You know, it's so
too.
different. You know, it's really
Well,
being able to.
But also like other stuff which is already linked to the XRP Fund Foundation is stuff like the WooCommerce plugin. There's loads of things. Let me take a quick ponder. There is like we recently, if you are writing your thesis on XRP and you say I'll put it on Coil, so if you publish it on Coil, we'll give those people, if the thesis is like a real thesis for university, we'll give them like a token of thanks, like 500 XRP. Because that's like next to developers, we also need a lot of people who really think the whole concept of blockchain and cryptocurrencies through and make it possible to discuss about it. And you'll need people who study the material. So that's something which is really important as well.
Well, I was also impressed too. If you guys know Nixer from the community, I think he's based over in Germany. So Nixer put up that XRPL, the Christmas tree. Yeah. You know, that every time like somebody, you could send it and like the links, the lights I think would blink on it. That was clever. That was fun. I thought that was a really interesting, fun way to position. It's kind of like you create something fun, but it's really demonstrating the power of what can be done. I mean, not that you couldn't flash lights. And I know that Jerry Hall did an interview with, gosh, the name escapes me at the moment here, but it was talking about how you could fund in the back. If you sent XRP2, it would flash some lights in the background. And that was, good Lord, I can't remember, Jeff. Do you recall? Yeah, Thomas. Yep. That's exactly right. That was something fun too. But again, it's demonstrating what is possible. And we talk about what's possible. I want to know, when are you going to start planning SG, sincerely George, for the 2.0 version of the community fund? And you see, it's like, I see already see your response. When are you going to start planning for that? Should we start like
2020?
Maybe March, start planning for that for the rollout next year?
No, I think what we did was really innovative, you know, in regards to raising for an open source project. A lot of open source projects get overtaken by large corporations doing the enhancements that they want to fuel their business, right? Like that's the benefit of open source, is it levels the playing field. So
nice.
The challenge is that over time, with the lack of funds for the core elements of the solution can get lost, the thing that brought everybody to it. So I think I haven't started planning. I just finished getting settled into 2020 and it's almost tax time. But yeah, I want to, I think it's really interesting that, and bridging the non-technical and the technical people in our community is something that I find really interesting. Like, it's awesome that we have people putting their thesis on Coil, because that is an engagement level that we need. But if our community can actually help fund the flows, or if our community continue to support people that are having an eye on what's going on and have that bridge of communication, what a powerful community, right? Because we have the amplifiers to help drive change and to ensure that what we need is there. When it comes time to reduce the 20 XRP reserve, I want somebody there. I don't have a validator, so I can't vote on that. But when it's appropriate to have different things happening with the ledger, it's good to have our community there. So we need to fund it. So I think 2020 is definitely in the cards, but I'm not ready to start planning it yet.
So Tom, for people watching tonight, what is the best way to go ahead and donate? I mean, we'll put a link down below, but what's the best way, or what do you suggest if, let's say, people are hearing what's going on and they want to come together and support? What are some of the things that they might do or to contribute, or maybe some other things, ways they can get involved, like what Sincerely George was talking about?
Yeah. Well, there's loads of ways to contribute to the community, the XRP community. One, for instance, is, as I said, I've been organizing meetups for a long time now because I want to get to know people who are interested, share my knowledge, but also help like developers to be inspired and to be inspired to get to work with blockchain in general. And because for payments, I think the XRP ledger is very useful. So I mostly tell them about XRP, but I know there are different solutions for different problems. So there's like a guy who is organizing a meetup now in the Netherlands who's called Crypto Baum. He's organizing one in Utrecht on the 29th of February. And it was the first time he was organizing something like that. So I tried to help him and advise him on what to do. But mostly he's doing it on himself. And that's, in this case, he's an IT guy, but not a programmer. And he's putting his right foot forward. No, that's not what you say. He's putting a foot forward to help the community and to get people interested and give people more knowledge. And then on the other hand, you have people like developers who can really come with their own ideas. They can go to fund.xrp.fans, and there they can put in their own ideas about what should be built, and they can vote on projects that they find interesting, and that's so it's not only building stuff, but also communicating and thinking and inspiring others.
Yeah, if I could interject there, I think the website that you guys have where people list out the ideas, the different innovative ideas they have, and then people vote, and having the dialogue around that is really important. And there's so many ways that we can get involved with the developers, but in regards to the developer fund and supporting what the foundation, the XRP Community Fund, right? What are ways that people can contribute, continue to stay engaged? Like, are there things that I in the community can do to support what you guys are trying to do?
Yes, but I think yes, that's very important, and I hope in the future that we can ask more people with like very concrete, very clear things. So we need help with this, or but for instance, the website needs a revamp, and And while Wietse was very busy with setting up the XUM, so the project he's working on, we didn't have time to revamp the website. And it's like the place where you start. So it's very important to get a good website in and make clear what kind of options you have to support the community. And I think there's a chance there. We need to do that in a better way. So it's a good point.
It's a really impressive initiative overall. You know, I mean, there's really nothing quite like it out there. You know, I mean, the only thing I can think of, and I can't remember the name of this organization, but there's an organization out there of retired businessmen, business owners, CEOs, etc., and they help entrepreneurs. I don't know, I can't remember they're in different cities throughout the U.S. And this is the closest thing that I've seen like it, to where it's a community-based initiative. I mean, that's obviously kind of old school, but people that go there as an entrepreneur, they want that help, support. How do I start my business? Here, you have an entire community that you can go to that's not just excited about, you know, how can we help an individual, but it's how can the entire community come together to build out an ecosystem. I mean, so do you feel like you're on the cutting edge of something just unbelievable? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm thinking about the unbelievable part. I think actually it's very down to earth. I think it is difficult to grasp the power of the technology on the one hand, and on the other hand the complex field of economics, banking. It's so overwhelming. So if you're a programmer but don't know a lot about economics or payments, it can be very tough. And the other way around as well. Maybe you have like business ideas, or business to business, or person to business, but you don't have the programming skills. The possibility to help each other there is not unbelievable, but it's very very real. And so it's like it's coming together with or without something like a foundation, but it will make it a lot easier, and would make it a lot easier.
It's awesome. I think it's outstanding, because you bring up an amazing point again, about that, you know, being able to put people together, you know. And so we're in this this social media age and this tech age where the four of us can sit here each in a different location and have a conversation, you know, about a project, a community-based project that's pulling people together. And really, it's amazing that up until this point, I haven't really been exposed to an initiative like this before, where it's truly, and I don't know if one exists. Definitely not in the crypto space, definitely not in the traditional space, where it's saying, hey, the community's coming together, but what you're just talking about takes it to a completely different level, where it's like, hey, you know, you're a tech guy, you've got all these amazing ideas, you want to put them on paper, but you're afraid to do it because you don't understand the business aspect, you know. And it was interesting because Jerry Hall, one-on-one with Jerry Hall, he has a show that dropped this morning on the chain, and he was interviewing Michelle O'Connor from Uphold, the vice president of marketing with Uphold, and she brought up a good point on, you know, when it comes to entrepreneurial initiatives. And she was saying there's people out there that have this spark of an idea, and then they realize that, you know, they only know their part of it, but maybe they don't know how to do web development. Maybe they don't know accounting. So instead of pursuing their idea, they decide not to do it at all. And that's the majority of the people in the world fall into that equation, where they have this spark, but then they're like, no, it's too difficult, I don't know the right things, and they stop. So in this space, this is amazing, because you have an initiative, now you have somewhere to turn, to where it's a community support mechanism to embolden people to not just build in the space from a technical perspective, but to develop a business and really embrace that entrepreneurial spirit that so many have. And I see great things for this project. I really do.
Yeah, we also, otherwise and I'm really glad that a lot of people also think that as well. People like George, who put a lot of energy and time into it as well. But also people from so we are with the three founding or board members, but then there are 7 others who are also in the board who help us with the voting. So we have a system where if we start moving, because we have been idle for a couple of months, if we start moving, we'll have initiatives and projects which will be voted on if we want to help them, and it's all on the blockchain. So on the XRP ledger, the voting, and if there's enough votes, then it will go through, and if not, then we cannot spend the money on it. So we, as the Wietse, Hugo, and I, we have to do the payment. But if the others vote against it, it won't go through. So that's really cool as well. So like the technical part of that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, the voting's on Ledger, which the product of the product is always a great thing. You know, one of the things that Jeff and I struggled with a little bit, shockingly, is the whole idea of this on the chain was to put it on the blockchain. And it's crazy. Yeah. We want to do everything on the blockchain, right? But we're still not 100% there yet. So there's some things that, like we want a bank that's 100% on the blockchain. You know, we want to set up almost everything we touch. And it's weird. It's like we're struggling with, you know, you can't quite, we're not quite there yet, but we're moving in the direction. We're getting there. But that was the whole idea, is let's be a product of the product. And I love when you start talking about, you know, we're voting on Ledger, we're voting this. But I also want to take a moment to give a huge shout out to Sincerely George, because she really brought the awareness to the community to a larger extent and really kind of put it out there. And I think that kind of grassroots sort of bubbling up and then getting other people involved is how everything thrives in the world, right? It all starts with one idea, a couple people, you create the community fund, the community fund starts branching out, someone like, you know, Sincerely George gets involved, she starts enrolling people in the idea, and then the next thing you know, we've got something that's bigger than all of us put together. And one of the things that I've been really excited about, yeah, you know, Twitter's weird, there's weird people on there and they say all kinds of stuff, but you know, most of the time, I am excited about being on Twitter because I get a lot of really valuable data and also thoughts, right? People, I kind of more interested in people that disagree with what I don't know how I feel about it, and someone says something completely opposite. So I do find our community, the XRP community, is such a special community. The people involved, and Tom, I wanted to turn this back to you because you had talked about these meetups, doing it from 2013, you know, starting 2012, 2013. You talked about you seeing people come and go, but what are what's the common thread or the commonality that you see strewn throughout these meetups?
I first want to hook up on something you said before. You said people from around the world, and what I've been looking for is if you look at the different continents, we see people from the Americas who are active. We see people from Europe. We see people from oceanic parts of the country, the continents. Then people from Asia. But for instance, there's a really active community in Japan as well. And with the fund, we were looking for like a good mix of people to vote and to help us with getting the word out. And Hodor was one of the guys who was in the voting committees. As you know, Hodor decided to leave Twitter and will come back in as his own person somewhere. We don't know when, and maybe he's already there, maybe he's not. We don't know yet. But because of the connection with the Japanese community, we asked Crypto Ari, which you guys know, to take his place, because we also want to get the people in Japan involved, because they're so active in it as well.
That's great. Yeah, Crypto Eddie's a contributor here on the chain, and she's she's been a big supporter of the space overall. I mean, especially on the chain. I mean, we're really, we have a lot of gratitude because of that. But just what she does. I mean, when she goes down that rabbit hole. I mean, especially with exposing the FUD. She's just phenomenal, man. And when she starts exposing that FUD, I mean, she does it with she's like a princess warrior. She does it in such a beautiful way that you're like, wow, she just hammered them. So yeah, she's a phenomenal asset to our community, without a doubt. It's great.
And she has a unique viewpoint in the fact that she both knows the American culture and is in Japan, and that's. That's something else. If we go back to the point about the community since 2013, there are so many different people and so many different contributors who've gone and went. People like the predecessor of XRP talk was XRP chat. Doing it the other way around? I'm not sure.
XRP chat, I believe.
XRP chat.
Yeah. So the predecessor of that was like a French guy who really put a lot of time of effort in there, and then he became a father and he prioritized, and that's people who left the community, but I'm pretty sure they're still looking with one eye, or maybe they are again active. But you don't always know, and that's okay. But it's so special to see different people who come and go, like Hodor, like XRP Trump, who put a lot of time and energy in there, and maybe they come back in a different. I myself also had a break for 1.5 years because I got so tired of like doing stuff, and then there were the politics and the stuff like that. It happens, of course, it happens. It's okay. But people always tend to come back and get re-energized because stuff happens.
That's it. That's another good point. You bring up is the politics of it all, and some of it's some of the emotional aspect of it.
Yeah.
And we saw some recent fragmentation within certain communities based on support of different exchanges, and people get too emotionally connected to things, and I think. In a community environment, you're always going to have the emotions. But when you're thinking it from a business perspective or an investment perspective, it's always best to keep the emotions out of it as much as possible to avoid it. But sometimes it's unavoidable. But you bring up some really very important criteria. I think looking forward, that again as you're looking at this. And you're broadcasting forward, and we talked about where the XRP Community Fund is now, kind of where it's come from. What do you see the future? What does the future hold for the XRP Community Fund?
Well, we're just getting started with the support of people like George. We're getting, so like also with the support of Ripple, by the way, they are also supporting the fund, which is really important as well. But I think we'll move forward because they know the importance as well, and they recognize that and know that it's not only the business part, the Ripple part, but also the XRPL, and we'll see for like the most principal parts in the next couple of months. We'll see real projects getting started and getting voted on, the website coming together, people receiving their first bounties. Yep. So that's what I'm really looking forward as well. That's to really start. We had loads of stuff like the bylaws and getting everything technically in order, the website. you need all of those to move forward, to get in the motion. So I'm really looking forward to really getting started.
Okay.
Got it. Well, you think we'll see any corporate sponsorship at all? Where you'll
before you move on, I'm really excited about you guys getting started, and the website where people can vote, right? Like,
yeah,
Woohoo Commerce, plugin that you guys created, and the ability for people to start using XRP for transactions. I'm hearing you guys say some of those projects may start moving forward. So do you need people to get out there and vote on the ideas that are out there, or how do you want
absolutely
people to engage in identifying the right projects to push forward?
Yeah, absolutely. What you're saying is absolutely right. We need people to come up with ideas, but also to vote on those ideas. And then if they're upvoted, it's not that they're exclusively the ones that we'll pick, but there are other projects we'll put on, like put up front, but we'll see things moving, and that's the most important part. Awesome. Spending that XRP.
Yes.
So let me ask you a question. If somebody wanted to get involved with the XRP Community Fund and to help out, where would you point them?
First to the website fund.xrp.fans. That's a place to start. Contact us on Twitter. I don't know the handle sign by.
That's we'll put all those in the description.
Yeah, they'll all be down there.
Please put it in the description.
That's the key. Okay.
Yeah, I want to talk about corporate sponsorship. I want to talk about big money. I want to talk about somebody dumping, a couple 100,000 or something into it. When you say supportive Ripple, are they supporting in the sense of any sort of financial obligation, or just in the sense? Okay, very good. Because I think there's other players that can get involved as well, and I think from a corporate side of it too. When I say corporate, I'm talking about just maybe companies, or because other companies that work in the open source space or certainly leverage this. It'd be nice if they're looking for a position to, and there's some availability there for them to do something, because I could see that really helping out and growing, obviously from a stronger standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the moment we are focusing on setting up the whole process and working on getting things ready. And it's still like it's not my daytime job or anything like that. Same goes for the other guys. So we have to find a mode where we get the whole process behind it working correctly, and then we'll see how it develops from that. So we're not actively looking for big corporate sponsored at the moment, but you can imagine that that will be possible in the future.
Gotcha. Well, listen, I want to take the time to thank both of you for coming here today and showing up and and talking about this really important project to not only something we love, but the community itself at large. Tom Kuster from the XRP Community Fund. Guys, we'll have the links down below, so you'll be able to go take a look at some of the stuff. You're wondering, what do I do? They'll be down below. So we'll put a bunch of them down there so you can start researching it, read about the project, learn more about it. We'll put a link to Sincerely George's the XRP Community Choice Awards. We'll put that together. And I want to thank you, Sincerely George, for not only what you did to bring awareness to this project, but also for being here today. You can check out more on thechain.io. On thechain.io, you'll be able to see contributors. We're working on something where we'll be able to put all the podcasts there, because some people want to take this with them. They don't want to look on YouTube. They want to just go on Spotify or one of these other ones and be able to just download it, take them with them on the train or on their commute, or listen to them in the car. And we're working on that as well. Also, I just want to do one little quick around. Jeff, if you would we'll end on you and take us out of here. But Sincerely George, just kind of like parting words, because we're going to go on to the after show, so we're not going away. We're just moving platforms over to Coil. So Sincerely George.
Yeah, I just want to motivate everybody to go out and check out the XRP Community Fund website. Use the links that are provided, but it's XRP Fund on Twitter, and you can link through there and identify what flows you think need to be developed, right? The website is where you would vote on those different ideas or propose an idea, as Tom was talking about. And get involved, as possible. And let's support our development of the XRP ledger. Thanks again for having me. I don't know if I said that in the beginning, but yeah, it's been awesome to be here with
Great
you
to
guys.
have you.
Awesome having you.
Tom, you want to take us out? What do you have?
Yeah, well, what George said is absolutely totally true. I like to also thank you guys for having me. George, for seeing you again in now for real.
Yeah.
And well, I think we'll have an exciting 2020 in front of us.
I
Good
agree.
word.
Fantastic. So I just want to give a quick update before we roll out of here. Thursday nights at 10 p.m. we have our new show, Deep Dive with Digital Nomad Investor, and that will be every Thursday. So tune in for episode 2. There's some great things coming. And I also want to give a shout out to the XRP Minute, because the XRP Minute has been resurrected and it is back. And we're excited about that, Chip. We're getting ready to roll out the HODL review. That is going to go back to the prime time, the way it used to be, reviewing up and coming hot topic projects. And we'll dig into them and tear them apart and rebuild and go through them. So we're excited about that show. Also want to make sure everyone's checking out One-on-One with Jerry Hall. He's doing some great things. And he just had an amazing interview that dropped Saturday morning with Michelle O'Connor from Upvote. So there's a ton going on here on the chain.
Wow.
With that, don't forget to check it all out on onthechain.io, and we'll look forward to seeing you on all of our great shows. See you then.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.